Welcome to The Explainer. You ever wish you could just upgrade your brain? Well, today we're diving into Debbie Pearl's book, Create a Better Brain Through Neuroplasticity, and it suggests we can all become the architects of our own minds. So, let's kick things off with a big question. One that I bet has crossed your mind a time or two. Are our smarts, our personality, our abilities, are they just fixed from day one? For the longest time, science kind of seemed to say, yep, pretty much. But wow, the central idea in this book, which is pulled from modern neuroscience, just completely flips that old thinking on its head. It's a pretty radical idea. We aren't just a product of our brains. Our brains are actually a product of us. And this amazing idea, well, it all comes down to one of the most exciting concepts in science today, the surprising truth of neuroplasticity. So what in the world is neuroplasticity? Well, think of your brain less like a finished statue and more like, say, a huge dynamic network of roads. It's this scientifically proven idea that our brain is constantly changing, building new highways and strengthening old ones, all based on what we do, think, and experience. And this right here is where it gets really hopeful. It means we're not just victims of our genes or whatever life happens to throw at us. We actually have a choice. We literally hold the power to design and even redesign our own minds. All right, so how does this whole thing actually work? I mean, how do our daily lives literally translate into physical changes inside our skulls? Well, the book kind of boils it all down to this super simple but honestly profound principle. It's just like a muscle, right? The pathways in our brain that we use get stronger, and the ones we don't, well, they just start to fade away. I mean, every single time you learn a new skill or you tackle some tricky problem, or even if you just take a different way home from work, you're not just having an experience. You are physically building a better brain. You're forging brand new connections between your neurons, and that makes your mind stronger and more flexible. And if you want to talk about the sheer scale of this potential for change, get this. The book points out that our brains can develop up to 700 new neurons every single day. That is an incredible amount of raw material we have to work with. It's not some fixed system. It's alive, and it's growing. And this is what it all leads to. See, the more we learn and the more we experience, the more intricate this web of connections becomes, linking logic with creativity, memory with our emotions. This dense network is what actually builds our mental, emotional, and even our social intelligence. But it's not just about doing stuff like learning to play the guitar. It turns out that our inner world, our thoughts, is just as powerful, maybe even more so. In fact, there's this constant battle going on inside our heads, a tug of war between things that grow our brain and things that can actually shrink it. According to the book, our feelings and our general attitude aren't just these kind of floaty, temporary things, right? No, they're powerful forces that are literally reshaping the physical structure of our brains. They can either build us up by reinforcing positive, healthy pathways, or they can start tearing things down. So here, it's all laid out for us, the two paths you can take. On one side, you've got the brain-going stuff, learning new skills, new experiences, gratitude. And on the other side, there's what the author calls stinking thinking. Bitterness, anger, blame. The book makes the case that these negative thought patterns don't just mess with your mood. They can actively harm your brain's health. Now, the author ties this whole idea of mental discipline directly into her faith-based perspective. She uses this verse to make a point, that by intentionally focusing your mind on positive, trust-based thoughts and away from the negative stuff, you can use that as a practical tool to rewire your brain toward what she calls perfect peace and better health. Okay, so we've seen that our brains can literally change and that our actions and our thoughts are the tools we use to change them, which brings us to, honestly, the most empowering idea in the whole book. You are the architect of your own brain. So what's the blueprint? What are the big takeaways the book leaves us with? Well, here they are. It all starts with knowing you can physically change your brain. The how is through new activities and always learning. The tools are your own thoughts and emotions. And it all leads to this incredible bottom line. You are not stuck. You are not defined by your genes or your past. And in the end, the book leaves all of us with this really powerful, really personal challenge. You are the architect of your brain. You've got the blueprints, you've got the tools. The only question left is, what are you going to build?